GM. This is the Web3 Writers by Vagabond Media. I'm CD Demiscio, and I am joined by my friend and today co-host Edward Carpenter. Edward, I am so happy to see you. It has been a minute.
Mic is on. It has been a minute, but I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Super cool. We had a little bit of a delay there in between my speaking, and I think you're hearing it. It's kind of weird, but we'll just roll with the punches. Anyway, you guys, welcome to Web3 Writers. I see T. Dillon Daniel has joined us. E.R. Donaldson is with us today. He's going to have some interesting stuff to share. We're going to get Riona Morgan here in just a little bit. I believe she's planning on coming. Dylan, how's it going, man? You guys, I think I have this terrible delay. I'm speaking and I'm also recording, and I'm seeing what I'm saying is not showing up on the recording for 15, 20 seconds. I don't know what the deal is there, but maybe Riona, you can take over. E.R. Donaldson has some stuff that he's going to be sharing with us today, but other than that, hopefully we can figure out this madness.
CD, for me, it was just a case of my mic was off when I first tried to reply to you.
Oh, okay. Well, that seemed all right. I didn't hear from Dylan, so I assumed that maybe I had this big delay. Riona, how are you hearing things? Are you in real time?
I am. It really feels like I am. Good morning, everyone. Edward, it's so nice to see you. How's that? Does that seem realistic on your end?
Yeah, that seems totally good. Awesome.
Sounded good here, too.
Hey, I guess maybe what happened was I just didn't hear the part where I was supposed to talk. Hope everybody's doing good. I'm actually driving on the highway right now, so I might not be quite as available as I usually am for this.
You're all good, brother. I just, with the delay, I just wanted to make sure everything's working, and it seems like it is. So let's just reset real quick. This is the Web3 Writers by Vagabond Media. I'm CD Demiscio. I'm joined today by co-host Edward Carpenter, also co-host Riona Morgan. We've got Indefatigable here, T. Dillon Daniel. We've got E.R. Donaldson and Odd Writings, and we've got some fun stuff to share today. We're going to try to get E.R. Donaldson up on the stage so that he can share some stuff. Let's see if that works.
How am I doing, CD? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. I was having some weird tech difficulties during the intro. I apologize, but I am here. Are you ready for me to do my spiel?
I think now's as good a time as any. I know how busy you are, especially this time of the year. So go for it.
All right. Well, thanks for the space. I wanted to share here first with all of my Web3 compadres the results of the Enter the Netherverse contest that we just did on T2 World in association with Twigtails. So for those of you who may not be familiar, the Netherverse is the flagship universe for Mythic North Press, and I've really enjoyed reading all of the contributors' unique takes on the setting this past month. So without further ado, we have 4 winners for this competition. It was done based on the top submissions submitted each week. And you're going to recognize some of these names, which I'm really happy about. It's great to have this same strong core group of Web3 writers showing up and putting out great work. So here we go. So in no particular order, our first winner is Jay Adams. And Jay Adams entered several pieces for consideration for the contest. I particularly enjoyed his invasion sequence of stories, which offered insight into the events leading to the first Crimson War between the Kentaur and the Terrans in the continuity. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, I'd be happy to send you the codex you can read in. But without giving you a full summary of the history of the universe as it's written, I just want to say that first Crimson War is an area that I was looking to personally one day maybe expand into, and I really like Jay Adams' take on it. So we'll be publishing a formal press release with all of the entries that were part of this, but he did a 3-part entry there, Invasions Part 1, 2, and 3. And then he also had one more other post that I happened to notice when I was judging for the 4th week, Gem it's called, but I'll confess I have not yet had a chance to catch up on that one, but really enjoyed his take on the universe and his commitment to the project. So thanks, Jay Adams, and congratulations. Our second winner is Hank Ryder, and Hank really nailed the grittiness of the setting, and with his entry wove in some nice cosmic horror elements, which happens to be a personal favorite genre of mine. I can't say enough good things about his 7-part story, so if you're on the T2 World platform, be sure to check it out. It is a 7-part sequence, so it is significantly longer, but quite frankly, I want to see him do more with this kind of theme. So thanks, Hank, for contributing. You're a personal friend. I appreciate you coming out. Speaking of personal friends, our third winnow is our very own CD Domicio. Now, as I've teased him previously, CD took the most liberties with the setting out of any of the contributors, yet the essence of his story is still deeply founded in the lore that I put out for the Nethriverse. And ironically, his story, although drastically different from this piece, ends on a note similar to where I left the universe with my short story entitled Of Dreamers and Prophets, which was published several years back by Outland Entertainment. So make sure you look at his 5-part series on the Temple of Kepri, and that thus far unexplored part of the Nethriverse. Really like what he did there, and honestly, I'm going to talk to him some more because I want to see some of this enter into formal canon. And then our last but not least final winner is Amira Rashid, or she goes by Amy. I've been working with Amy for a long time. I haven't heard much from her in a while, but she was actually, like CD and Hank, one of the original contributors to the Mythic North anthology a couple years back. And her story, The Awakener, on the T2 platform, is another piece that had some very interesting echoes of Dreamer and Prophets, yet in a way it was entirely different from my own take. So I can definitely see how she took the lore, and having not read that entry, as it's one of the more obscure entries in the franchise, she really managed to capture the essence of the universe with her diverse cast of characters and take it in her own direction. So I was particularly fond of her crew, and I would love to see some more action from this crew in the future. I also want to throw out one honorable mention, and that is from Raquel Annette, who also placed in as one of the top writers in the parallel running Twig Tales competition. She had started something very interesting with her Mission Synthetic Chapter 1 post. However, it was just I wanted a little more time to explore her approach to the universe. It really caught my attention, a little bit off canon. But again, like I mentioned with CD, sometimes I enjoy that because I enjoy seeing other people's interpretations. But I wanted to see more of it through subsequent entries. The contribution just felt a little unfinished, so that was why it did not place. But I did want to go ahead and give her a shout out. So to wrap up my prepared remarks here, thanks again to everyone who participated, either by writing in the universe or by reading the created works in this contest. I'm very much looking forward to future partnerships between Mythic North Press and Twig Tales and T2. This was an experiment for me. One thing that I've been doing with my publishing company is really trying to push the bounds and try things that I've never done before. So there's been a lot of lessons learned. And when we do these future competitions, which I say when, because we definitely will, we'll be taking the lesson learned from this competition and allow it to move forward more smoothly. So thanks again, CD, for giving me a spotlight on the space here. Love the partnership with Vagabond and all the other aforementioned partners, and looking forward to great things in the future.
ER, that is so awesome. And thank you so much. I mean, I knew I was going far from canon, or, far from the established storytelling. And I'm just amazed that I placed. And then when you sent me your earlier story and I read it, it really is astounding how we both ended at the same place. Like I hadn't read your story and I had no idea that that was where you ended, and it's going to be really fun, hopefully, to move forward together on that. I did want to ask you one thing. What did they win? What did the or we, I guess, what were the prizes? Because I was just writing for the love of writing, but you did say prizes were involved. So what did Amy and Hank and I'm sorry, who was the Raquel and
Jay Adams, actually.
oh Jay
Yeah.
Adams? Yeah.
Yeah, so again, the winners were Jay Adams, Hank Ryder, CD Demitio, and Amira Rashid. And each of you are going to get $150 cash prize from the competition. I'm willing to pay that out either via PayPal, if you're willing to share your PayPal information with me, or in USDC, if it's more comfortable for you to share your Ether address with me. So DM me on Discord. That's the best way to get a hold of me. I've reached out to several other individuals regarding the competition. So please, that's the best way to get in touch with me, and I'll be sure to get your prize by the end of the week.
That's amazing. So you matched the prizes that Twigtails was giving. You, as an individual running this contest within Twigtails, matched the prizes that Twigtails gave out to their winners, it's awesome, dude. By the way, I do want to say the winners of the Twigtail contest, I want to shout out to them. I don't know any of them except Amy, who actually won Twigtails too. So you had Raquel Annette with 4226 time points. Number 2 was Amy, who had 2,310 time points. Ben Westerham had 24 Twigtails stories read. And the top team, sorry, Web3 Writers, it was not us. I think we all knew that because we've been all busy in our own directions this summer. But the top team was Misfits, and they had 10,000 time points collectively generated. So that is really awesome. Congratulations to all those winners. And I do want to say that we've got something coming from Vagabond Media called Future World. And Amy is one of the writers there. Dylan is one of the writers there. Riona is one of the writers there. ER is one of the writers there. I'm one of the writers there. And Future World is pretty amazing. So keep your eyes open for that. We will be talking about that more. But all of these writers, if you get the chance to read any of them, just do it. Oh, another writer who's involved in Future World is Quanta, who we haven't seen in a while because, she's in a strange time zone. It's hard for her to join. And we miss her, just like we miss Edward Carpenter. This is a good point now to say, Edward, what have you been up to? Where have you been? I know it's God early there, but tell us about what's going on in Edward Carpenter's world.
Okay, I think you're gonna love this. My wife flipped the script on Hamlet with me this week, and she said, "Get thee to a nunnery." So I'm quietly dialing in from a nunnery. I'm in a tiny, narrow room where I've been sent to finish the last sprint in copy editing, a 482-page book that comes out next year. So was pulling an all-nighter. Didn't even realize what day it was. Was chatting to ER, and I'm like, man, I was just about to go to bed, but I'm just going to take a 20-minute power nap and jump on this. So that explains a little bit of why I've been a bit absent lately. But I do have a short list of things that I'm happy to cover all at once or in bits and pieces. One's a quick update on Arts and Poetry Volume 3. I've got a big ask, a small Twigtails announcement, and then a little bit about T2, Paragraph, and WorldCast, and what I think they mean for the writing ecosystem. So can do it all at once or after everybody else has had a chance to chat a bit.
I'd say do it all at once, but I just have to say, man, you have me laughing my ass off here because nobody else but you would be calling into Web3 Writers from a freaking nunnery. And I'm just picturing you like cramped in this tiny cubicle with your book, struggling to finish it. But man, I sure love you, and I'm sure glad that you're here. So let us know everything all at once, I think is the way to go here.
Okay, well, the nunnery thing is actually, I'm not the first person to do something like this. The author of the James Bond novels would check himself into a really shitty hotel. Neil Gaiman has done that for a couple of his books. And my wife was so frustrated by the process of watching me get the initial draft into the publisher, which he's like, never again. Next time you're doing this nonsense, you're leaving the house. So it was not entirely unexpected, and it has been somewhat useful to be able to get away, because as a writer, I think if I'm loving what I'm doing, it's easy. But if I'm kind of dreading what you're doing and I'm around the house, always, it's easier to go do the dishes or, screw something in or go work on something than it is to sit down and do the work. So this is working. Arts and Poetry Volume 3 is still in process. I know Quanta, among other people, I think Rihanna I don't remember everybody who submitted. But I've got a bunch of submissions, and it's just waiting for me to get through this next 3 or 4 weeks, and then I'll be able to turn to working on what is the first themed issue, which is minimalism. So we're going to have haiku and I think limericks, some short poetry, and some minimalist art. So excited to do that. Then excited to do some other themed editions. The big ask, I posted a link up in the in our little nest there, and it's for a piece, and this ties in some of the stuff I'll talk about a bit later, but it's a piece on kind of what the philosophy for building in Web3 should look like. And it's not unique to writing platforms, but it was triggered by my experience with writing and also DeFi social platforms. And by the way, I'm very glad to see that Tansy has joined us, because I have a special announcement in just a moment that I think they'll like to hear. So so the big ask would be, that's on T2. And if anybody has time to go and read through that, it is also part of a contest. T2 is starting to host more and more of these contests that somebody else is doing, but the time points and their platform is a really great way to get all the articles, the essays, the stories together. So I think that maybe Twigtails and now the Netheroverse and some other groups have kind of started a trend. I think that we're going to be seeing more of that, because I was actually just in a call with the developers from T2 today, and going through what some updates to their platform may look like in the future. And that was one of the things I kind of, as a afternote, told them, was I thought that this was one of the strengths of their platform, was its ability to do this. So my little Twigtails announcement, like ER, I was impressed enough by some of the writing and what went into it, that I wanted to make a special prize, one that wasn't originally announced, but it is for Tansy and her team. And that is because they did a really great job of doing the stuff that I think is the best thing about Web3 writing, and that is collaborating, leveraging the power of the medium to combine art. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but it helps if it's a really good picture, and the actual words themselves. And the third part of the sort of the key that you need to do is promotion. And I thought that their job of promoting on Twitter was really great. I really expected to see them sweep, and I think it was a very close. They just came a very close third to Misfits. So my prize for them will be dropping some of my book NFTs and probably some invitations to join gift memberships to Warpcast if they're not already on there, because I think that is a very interesting place for writers to be, as well as looking at potentially featuring some of their work, even if it's just as an excerpt in something that I do in the future. So with that, Tansy, if maybe we can invite them up to speak if they'd like, and I can stop talking for a moment, and they can tell us a little bit about their experience with the T2 writing contest.
Well, we have invited them, but we haven't seen them yet accept, and we understand that sometimes you can't accept for various reasons. Specifically, if you're on like a desktop, it makes it impossible. So anyway, you're invited, Tansy. If you want to come up, please do.
And I'm not entirely surprised necessarily by the kind of the quality and collaboration, because they're a part of Degeneres DAO, and I've been really impressed with what Degeneres has been doing with kind of melding movies and storytelling and writing. So yes, but Tansy, if you're not able to get on the mic, no worries. I'll DM you and we can sort out the details. But just wanted you to know that your contribution and your team's contribution did not go overlooked. And if you missed out just a tiny bit on points, it was still a notable enough performance that I thought it deserved some actual rewards, which might not be a huge pot of gold, but hopefully it'll be something that makes you smile. I guess that brings me to the last part, which kind of ties into the article that I was hoping folks might read on T2, and that is my experience with Warpcast and Paragraph, and there's good and bad in both of those. I think Warpcast has a lot of potential, and I think that I've pivoted greatly off Twitter. If I'm spending any time in social media, it's mostly on Warpcast. One of the reasons is I think over the last month, I've made about $200 in what they call tips. That may go up or down depending on the value of this little token that they use. But most of that has come for just having ordinary interactions that I would have had on Twitter. But on Twitter, no one can drop me a few like meme coins. And I also can't gift them back meme coins that cost me nothing. So that's one of the interesting things about the ecosystem. Unfortunately, I'm sort of in a bit of a battle now, probably a bit one-sided, philosophically speaking. And Dylan, I'm very interested in your take on this. But it appears to me that it's very much becoming a class-based system, because you have these power badge users who, even though it's supposed to be decentralized and we're supposed to be getting rid of algorithms, they are preferenced in the algorithm. And they're also preferenced in all the sort of interfaces. So Paragraph is very closely, integrated with Warpcast. There's a lot of other things that are built on the Farcaster protocol that are also integrated, and very many of them preference whether you hold this power badge, which once upon a time was kind of assigned by hand, but now is both algorithmically assigned, and the founders of Warpcast have explicitly said that they don't intend to, just like Elon won't reveal the algorithm. So they're really sort of going down the same path as the Twitter has with the verified and the invisible algorithm. And the whole point of the blockchain was supposed to be transparent. You were supposed to be able to see everything that happened. If you dug down, you were supposed to be able to find it on chain. So that is a philosophical issue. And then the other one was that they appear to be, a lot of what they're doing structurally is an attempt to, just like Twitter did, they have a problem with bots. So they're trying to crush the bots. Unfortunately, some of the thing that decides whether you're a bot or not is literally a bot. And it misidentified me as a bot. And it misidentifies some bots as humans. So I've written a few things about that, and kind of had it back in and out with the founder of Paragraph. We disagree on whether so their Paragraph's is a bot itself. And while it's nice if it recasts my post, really what it's doing is spamming. And it's spamming for engagement, just like the influence farmer is. So just some really interesting things, and it really did make me kind of do a mental comparison between Paragraph and T2, which are both sort of in the running to be the Web3 medium. I think there's room for both, but I very much like the human element, the human curation element that's in T2 right now that seems to be very much lacking in Paragraph. So with that said, I'm going to shut up and see what other people have, questions you might have, comments you might have. thoughts on anything I've mentioned so far?
Well, you've hit on a couple of my favorite topics, which would be social media and how to fix it, as well as transmedia storytelling. But you specifically called out Dylan, and I want to hear what Dylan thinks about that, because his mind on these subjects is expansive and nuanced. Dylan, it's all you.
Right on. Well, thanks. Yeah, I left Paragraph. I started, really liking it. I was posting things pretty often, and then one day I noticed that the bot was not summarizing my pieces anymore, and I just kind of compared that to T2 and thought, you know what, like, forget Paragraph. I'm just going to go to T2, and so that's what I did. I also liked your piece about the veil of ignorance, Edward. I think sometimes it can be, I don't know, challenging to like actually implement that, because I think there's a tension here, and on one end of the dynamic, you've got, users who want particular types of content, they want to feel engaged, they want to feel like they're part of a conversation. And then on the other end, you have kind of this, well, there's all these other people that, want to be involved and want to be engaging. And so there is like a real hard problem there that you have to kind of solve if you're going to get into the social media and do it actually better. I will say I still do Warpcast, and the reason I do is because I think they're going to have multiple different sort of algorithms and stuff. But there is, like a non-zero chance that they just kind of get lost in the weeds and kind of lose the thread that they've got going that's so good so far. But yeah, brief thoughts from me today.
Brief thoughts, but powerful ones. So I'll try to be as brief as Dylan was, so other people get a chance. But I have that power user badge on Warpcast, and I'm not exactly sure why I got it, but it doesn't necessarily help me. Like, I still don't get much engagement. I've never figured out if I'm just terrible at social media, which is probably the answer there is yes. But every platform that I get on, I tend to just get lost in the weeds and just be sort of like transmitting out into the void. And Warpcast, my problem with Warpcast has really been that the same problem I have with all social media, honestly, is that social media, what I want to do is I want to follow people, and then I want to see everything that they post in order of time. Like the most recent thing that's been posted from somebody, that's what I want to see. I want to see, and then if Riona posted something like after Edward, I want to see what she posted first. And then if Odd Writings posts something, I want his to be at the top. And that's what I want to see. And I'll go through and curate it myself. I don't want a bot to curate my social media. And unfortunately, because of all the engagement stuff and the monetary issues, nobody does that. They just refuse to let that happen. And maybe it's because of the bots. I don't know.
Well, so this is two points to that. My friend Camilla said something very similar. She's also longtime friend and a power badge, and she's like, I don't really see a difference. And I said, well, part of it is you don't see what you don't see. So you assume that everybody's experience, even if it doesn't include a lot of engagement, is like yours. What you don't see is that frames don't display the same way, and your posts don't show up. So they've now put a main recent split. So if you're a power badge, your thing will show up in main. Recent is kind of the trash pile, and they have a priority setting that is the default. And if you don't go and unset that, you will see again whether many people engage with your cast or not. It showed up in a different place automatically than a non-power badged user. And if you post a paragraph article, your article will be handled differently. But you don't see that it's different for anybody else because it just doesn't. It's also not transparent. I do completely agree that what I want too is just that. That time stamped feed, and what Warpcast have done really well was to put these channels, which are kind of like T2's territories, so that if you wanted a feed that was curated to just philosophy or just poetry or just Being a Friendly Witch, my friend Rakshita, it's a lovely channel. You would go to that channel, but your default timeline was your followers or the people you followed, and just in sequence. But what is clearly now happening is that it's not in sequence. It is algorithmically calculated, and no one knows what the algorithm is. I'd be fine if I was allowed to set my own algorithm, saying I'd prefer to see things from these people first, or this kind of content, things with these hashtags first. But that's not something we're being allowed to do. So yeah, definitely agree with half of it, and then have a different perspective just because I am in the lumpen proletariat for the first time in a long time on a platform, and it's very interesting to look at it from the ground up.
Interesting. Okay. And I also want to address Paragraph and T2 because, like, I understand the founder's dilemma. Like, Colin's dilemma with Paragraph is that he's forced to raise money so that he can pay for development, so that he can continue hosting, so he can make new things. I get that, and I understand it, but it's so frustrating to watch great platforms have to I've never known how to say this word kowtow, I think, or kowtow, I think, to have to kowtow to investors for money. That just really is so heartbreaking. And I think that that's what's been happening with Paragraph and with Warpcast, and it hasn't happened yet with T2. Edward, I saw your mic come on, so I cut off because I thought you were going to jump in there. Did you want to comment on that?
No, I think that I'll probably be doing plenty of commenting in my posts, and I will be still posting on Paragraph now that I have an account, because I don't believe in necessarily just walking away from something because you think it's broken. I'm curious to see how far I can push things before they just silence my casts or delete my account. But yes, I think you have a very interesting point. And of course, I'm a simple brick and mortar kind of guy who comes from a simple, business perspective, which is if you have a good product that pays for itself, then you don't need to get VC funding. And I have seen a lot of projects that have gotten the VC funding and just really badly mismanaged it, or a lot of rug pulls start with some angel investors who seem to walk away with a lot of the money and leave the average guy or girl kind of hanging. So I think the founder's dilemma is partly, I'm not 100% sure I believe in it, because I haven't had the founder's dilemma in any of the small businesses that I've managed to successfully start up. But maybe it's different being at scale.
Well, I do want to say that I think when you're talking about social media, founder's dilemma is very real because of the costs of hosting content, the costs of if there was a way that people hosted their own content, in a federated social media.
That's the myth. There's this contest that my essay is in. One of the things that somebody just posted was all the great things about DSO, and supposedly if it's really decentralized, the hosting is happening on each of our computers. I don't think that's really the case. I don't think it really is decentralized, or it's happening across a great number of nodes that are making a little something, but that they're not. But I think that is part of the problem. If we were doing real DSO, if it was really decentralized, you wouldn't have those hosting costs, or it would be distributed across the user base. But I could be wrong, and definitely interested in learning more.
Yeah, me too. And we do have some educated and thoughtful and power users of different platforms up here, and I'd love to hear from some of them. We've got Odd Writings and Riona Morgan, Indefatigable, E.R. Donaldson, T. Dylan Daniel. I'd love to hear from all of you guys on this more, and also you guys in the audience, if you have something you want to share, just raise your hand and we'll get you up here too.
Well, I can definitely jump in and talk a little bit about Paragraph and T2. I have accounts with both places, and I appreciate and enjoy using both for different reasons, I guess. So Paragraph, I really love the feature of the collect button where so Cryptoversal recently wrote a feature on Paragraph, and I was able to go in and collect that. And I really like that feature because then that's something that I can return to. It's not like setting a bookmark or something. A bookmark is I bookmark a zillion things a day and never return to them. But the collect button, it really fills out my collection or my bookcase, so to speak, here in Web3. And so I like that feature because I can return to it and I can follow along with whatever that next writer is doing. And so that piece is really intriguing to me. And then I really enjoy the it feels like a camaraderie in T2. It feels like we're all sort of in it together, where I feel like I kind of get lost in the shuffle in on Paragraph. I don't know how that's different, but the platform at T2 is so much is so open. Like we can see everybody, we can search, we can find things, we can look for each other, we can um and the interaction is very um positive, I think, with the reading points and the um connectivity. And maybe it's just because we're there together supporting each other all the time. I like that feature. As far as Warpcast, I have not really figured out how all that works with the different where you're posting, what you're posting. And so that's kind of a mystery. And so I was really intrigued by all of the things that Edward was saying this morning. And um, so, yeah, I just am, it's just, I feel like I'm just experimenting. What is this like? How do I feel? What is this like? How do I feel? And so I think that that really is going to be the biggest key, though, for people coming and joining the spaces, coming and joining these different platforms, is how successful do they feel while they're there? Yes, Edward, go ahead, please.
I did want to say, like I said, there's a lot to love about Warpcast, and the thing that I really like is the community in Warpcast. I think I get so much more enjoyment out of the 400 or 500 people that I follow or who follow me there than the 10,000 I think that I both follow here. Not to say that I don't love all of you guys as well, but again, you're a pretty small cast of characters, and I know who you all are. And on Warpcast, it feels there that it's that kind of same sort of like really, generally speaking, nice people. The people who get along together find each other.
Hello, everybody. I feel like this is such an interesting topic because it's like multiple levels. So there's like the technology stack level and like what it's actually doing, which is where I spend most of my time. Then there's the aligned incentives at the higher level, like VCs versus founders versus the Web3 audience and readers in general, like what they're looking for. And then there's like the pragmatic things about just the economics of the situation. Data storage costs money, right? And so it's so, if you slice through the whole cake made by all those layers, you can see the power of aligning all three of those layers and putting it in the hands of the people closest to the problem. And this is kind of why we have these weird, big, hairy, ongoing, multi-month discussions about like, what is it we're trying to do when we build? Who are we building for? What is our big vision? And I think that's part of it. Like literally at least once a week, someone goes into the PageDAO server and who's in part of the leadership team and will ask that question. And I think it's really important to remember that, because these things that are annoying to end users, they're annoying because they're serving the interests of someone higher up, but not everyone in an aligned way. And so like there are many of these branching sorts of problems that all stem from upstream problems of alignment. And so I think it's so useful to hear and gather the kind of like gripes, the pain points, which is something that we've been doing ongoing, because it one, it helps us direct on to what to build, but two, it reminds us of how important it is to have real people have decision-making power in technology building, and not just the people holding the purse. They started with money, they're going to end up with more money, and they run the show. They'll benefit whether the platform rocks or whether it doesn't, whether it serves people or doesn't. So anyway, I wish I had more than vague things there. The one thing I can say is that if this was like a sort of centrifuge, this kind of thinking and discussion, it has a tendency so that the products that we generate that come out of this space that I've been lucky enough to be a part of tend to have the weightier stuff will rise to the top. And like, I feel so, I don't know, enthusiastic, honored to be a part of that weighty slurry that comes to the top. And hopefully it will accumulate enough to like, make a dent in a very, very large space run by very, very large players.
Andy, always so happy to hear from you. And you bring a perspective that not all of us have, and most of us don't have actually. While at the same time, understanding the perspectives where most of us are coming from. So it is so valuable for you to share. Thank you so much. I also want to hear from Odd Writings on this because I know you have something to share.
Hey, thanks, CD. Yeah, I think, well, what I see with all this kind of stuff is it's very similar to normal business problems, which is essentially, from my perspective anyways, there's things you gain from having a small group and a small company, and inevitably you want the company to not die, right? And that generally means it has to either stay the same size or grow. If it stays the same size, then it's limited in what it can do because you have the same number of developers, the same number of users, and that might be okay. But in general, things evolve, and they either get bigger or smaller. And then once the organization gets bigger, then things get more complicated. Politics starts to come into it. Things kind of get messy, and the original vision, if you want to think of it that way, will shift. And I don't know if there's a way around that. I would, the most I can think of is what's different about what we're doing is that it's based on a particular type of technology stack. And a lot of times the technology can influence, or actually will influence the way that things evolve. Some things will evolve the same way as before, others not so much. And it depends on how much people are willing to take a risk, both with their money or with their time or something along those lines. So if you look, for example, we like to compare Web 2 and Web 3. So we like to say, oh, well, Web 2 is kind of like a normal business, but it's a little different, right? Because, there is like, social media on Web 2. And imagine that without computers, you have to be like everybody would be on speakerphones, and it would be like really limited, right? But no, we have with Web 2, we have email, we have chat. We can, that itself opens up a huge thing. And then with Web 3, it's a little different because the centers of power are attempting to become decentralized. So then we see, well, how is that going to change things? And so it's an incremental thing. The most thing that I think we can do, or at least I think the most powerful thing to do, is to think about how we can use the technology to somehow change things, either for the better or for the worse. But we're really kind of, as human beings, we're kind of stuck into that. I mean, I'm not sure what else to do other than to rely on the technology and maybe perhaps philosophize, and from that, get these bigger ideas, and from there kind of see maybe, do some kind of meta thing, or how can we add different technology to change things. And that's basically my thoughts. I know it's not concrete; it's all kind of abstract, but that's what was running through my head. But I see E.R. Donaldson has his wonderful hand up, so I will be quiet.
I want to defer to Edward here since he had his up before mine. Edward, go ahead.
That's my bad. I just didn't drop it. I couldn't see that it was still up in the screen.
Oh, my bad. I wasn't paying attention. So odd writings. I really agree with your philosophizing there. And this is something that I think about quite often when I'm considering what the future of this place looks like. And I think ultimately for any type of entertainment industry, whether it's, not basing this on fiction, it could be fiction versus nonfiction, like those of us who enjoy, learning things, that is a form of entertainment for us. These type of industries need to reach consumer hands in an accessible manner. And that is what I fully put at the core of the failure for Web3 to take off into the mainstream, and something that I'm going to be personally working towards with my future endeavors. I want to make sure that, we utilize the revolutionary technology to meet the consumers where they are. The reason why Web 2 became what it is because with social media, you went to the masses and you gave them a product that anybody could use. Right now in Web3, we could probably all agree this is not something that grandma could use. And I think that is really where you're going to see the shift here. I think what we need to start focusing on is how do we start using the blockchain ledger technology? What is it meant for in terms of talking about resale, talking about pledging, loyalty, kind of like a Patreon system, these kind of things. I think decentralization, that doesn't resonate with the average consumer. That resonates with degens like us. But I think what we need to do is talk about what this technology can do to enhance the user experience. Once that happens, that is when you're going to see this space take off.
Whoa. I think we got one bunch of smart bananas in this group that's up on the stage right now, and a bunch of smart bananas down in the audience too. If you guys want to come up and share your views, we say always that Web3 Writers is a conversation amongst writers at the intersection of blockchain and writing. It's not us just preaching to the choir. It is the choir preaching to us too. So if you want to come up, you're welcome. I've sent out a round of invites to everybody out in the audience. Please do if you want. Now, it's funny, the thing that I came to talk about today, Edward mentioned it, and I came prepared to talk about transmedia storytelling. And it's weird. Like I said transmedia to my daughter who's 12. I was like, transmedia storytelling. She's like, you want to tell stories about trans people? I was like, no, I want to tell stories that cross media, like transmedia. And I think back, there's a lot of books that sort of begin at that point where people have tried, different authors have tried. One of them is obviously Neil Stephenson, who is doing so much right now with Lamina One. I've posted a article that you guys should read. It is worth your time. He started a Substack, which, by the way, is my no offense, T2, I love you, but Substack is my favorite place to publish. And it's Web 2, I guess, but I think it's just a matter of time before they become Web 3, and I love the way that they run Substack. But this article is great because he talks about how the 100, I'm going to do a spoiler right here. He talks about how the 100 largest grossing movie franchises of all time, something like 96 of them are all set in worlds that are basically imaginary worlds, shared worlds. And he also talks about how at the beginning of books that he loved and used to read, and probably for all of us, there were maps, and those maps allowed your imagination to go like, hey, what's happening here? Now, transmedia storytelling is something along that lines, except you're jumping out of the pages of the book. You're telling stories with things other than just the written word on the page. Right now, I'm reading this crazy book by Kevin Costner, of all people, and it's not particularly great, and John Baird, who probably wrote it all and put Kevin Costner's name on it, but it's called The Explorers Guild. But they're using manga and regular writing and illustration in a regular hardback book, which is really fascinating. I wrote my undergrad thesis about Lost, which Lost, if you guys haven't watched it, sorry, you should, but you'll be disappointed anyway. But Lost did transmedia storytelling. They used the internet, they used magazines, they used print stuff. They went all over the place with different kinds of media. And I think that the future of books, I've always thought that the future of books is this transmedia storytelling where we jump from the page into different things. So that's what I came prepared to talk about to you guys today. And I've talked about it now, but I do want to hear from you guys about this transmedia storytelling. What are your thoughts?
Well, hell, isn't that what merchandising is? I mean, and that's what, how do you get the thing from the book onto the screen, or from on the screen onto your kid's t-shirt? I mean, when you look at some of the top grossing franchises, and I think this is, something I suffer over, because those of you who have read my fiction know I'm dark and twisty, but man, I want to write something that's appealing to children, that parents are going to buy action figures for, and have on their kids t-shirts, tennis shoes, and underwear, because that's where the cash is. But yeah, no, I agree with you, CD. I think that the opportunity to skip from the page onto other things, I mean, that is proven to be where the money is. And I'm really interested in the other brilliant minds up here, what you guys think about how the blockchain technology could add to that.
I just want to jump in real quick, ER, to say exactly that is what made me excited about Web3, was the fact that I saw Web3 as the opportunity for books to become transmedia. Everyone else jump in.
Well, I guess I'll just say real quick, what was the name of that Android game from a couple of years ago, where I don't know if it was Crypto Kitties or something, but people were playing this game, and then in the real world they would go out and find something, and you know what I'm talking about, and there was some concern as to whether, think of all the security implications of that, but I mean, the deal was they had this kind of artificial reality or augmented reality thing where they would see things, they would see these little monsters in the real world that no one else could see.
Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go, man.
Yeah, that's it. So that's the thing I was thinking of when you said transmedia, because that's definitely jumping off the page. And so I was thinking, well, instead of a video game, what if there was a story? And for the story, you have to go various places and do things, but there's lots of security implications with that, because, you could target it and try to get people to show up at a particular point, and then do nasty things to them, or, whatever. But I just throw that out as a strange idea.
But I mean, mentioning Pokemon Go, like, I've been sitting back thinking, okay, what if you could do that for adults with something like hiking? And that was one of the things that I hated about Pokemon Go in the game that I played. It was like, it was always concentrated towards urban population centers. Man, I want to go out in the wilderness and go on a actual adventure and find a treasure point. And I like what you're alluding to, Odd Writings. What if that allowed you to treat it like a Souls-like game or a Metrovania game? Sorry, my gamer is showing, where you get an additional piece of lore that you wouldn't have, that maybe gave you some insight into a sequel, or let you unlock some content or a drop that you wouldn't have. I mean, yeah, I'm waiting for somebody to do that. That's going to take somebody much smarter than me, but I think that's a great idea.
ER, that's actually a startup that just when COVID started, that I started working on, and we ended up not doing it because of the costs that were going to be involved. We called it NatureMon Go, and the idea was that people could go out into the jungle and go on hikes, and they could take pictures, using like the AI on your phone, which wasn't great at that point, but there was an app that was doing it. We wanted to use their data. You could take a picture of a plant or a critter that you saw, a bug, an insect, a bird, and then you would actually have that instead of like a Pokemon monster. And then the idea was to do like geocaching as well, attach that to it. It was just too complex, and we didn't have the funds to pursue it. But it's amazing that was the idea of NatureMon.
Hell, CD, we engage in all sorts of wild ideas together. We may talk about this again in the future.
So that sounds to me more like an Internet of Things thing, you know. And so perhaps you could come up with something where in a blockchain you have validators and you have nodes. Maybe the node would be installed in an Internet of Things. I mean, I've thought about something similar where you could have, for example, video cameras, and you could have a node of a blockchain actually be built within the camera. And then as the camera is filming, this is like a television camera for the news. It's filming the news, it's writing to the node in the blockchain so that you know it cannot be modified. And then that's a way of determining the authenticity of a news story if you could tie it then to one of these cameras that was in this news network. So that sounds a little similar, but I know we're kind of going up into the woods here. But the idea is, mix this in with literature somehow and see what we come up with, I guess.
Your pun within the woods is perfect. But yeah, I mean, I think that's where blockchain technology can really take off, because it adds this layer of authenticity to it. So if you can tie that to an augmented reality simulator, man, I think we got gold. You know, we may have the next thing on our hands right here.
Well, if you're listening and you're a developer, this is your chance to steal it, develop it, and make it before we start to.
Please do. I'd much rather play it than develop it. Not going to lie.
Sometimes that's the case. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left here. I want to make sure, sometimes we bring stuff, all of us bring stuff that we want to talk about, like I did, and we've talked about that a little bit. I think we can come back to talk about this more in the future. But are there other things that people brought that they would love to share or see or bring out to the group today?
Well, I want to jump in really quick and talk about some things I pinned in the nest. And it really is this current issue of Vagabond magazine and how beautiful it is and how it celebrates writers. And the different things that I pinned in the nest are celebrating the individual writers that are featured within the magazine. And so if you scroll up through what's in the nest, you'll see something by our wonderful co-host today, Edward Carpenter, and then you'll also see something by Quanta. You'll see something by Odd Writings, our beloved Web3 poet, and Quanta, our Web3 fashion editor. And anyway, and so it's just really, I just really wanted to bring forth and celebrate some of these names. And throughout this month and next month, you'll be seeing these kinds of posts pop up on Vagabond Magazine and Vagabond Media here on Twitter and elsewhere. And so I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to this and say, if you haven't had an opportunity to jump by and grab a copy of the magazine for yourself, you definitely should. It's so beautiful, and everybody's piece in it this time is just really, really wonderful. And if you're interested in being a writer for Vagabond Media, go ahead and follow Vagabond here, or follow me. I'm the editor in chief of Vagabond magazine, and get on board with jumping to the website, and there's a place to submit an article. Everybody's welcome all the time, and we would love to have you. And so yeah, I just really wanted to jump in and do that. And then I also thought that it would be great to hear from Indefatigable or Dylan on what's going on at PageDAO.
I'm happy to jump in. We are counting down to our alpha launch. That's alpha. Oh my God, it's been such a long slog. It's basically been 6 months of development with the help of a secret network grant. Our alpha platform is a book minter. It's a marketplace. It does multi-chain minting. It has author profiles. It has secret content stored in a decentralized way, meaning if we go away, your content doesn't go away. And it has multi-wallet access, social login and authentication. It'll have Farcaster frame support. It's basically the mega app for everyone publishing on chain, and it's been built with the community in mind. So I'm putting in an invite system now, and so like within the coming weeks we'll be like really relying on the community to like bang the crap out of kick the tires, I guess is a good metaphor, and give us feedback so that we can basically prep it for the beta launch in the fall and then the main net launch in next January. It's a really weird process. We're not like really super corporate with this thing. We're just people doing this thing. So we're kind of learning as we go. And I guess the main update is that we're getting better at everything we're doing. So both on the governance side and the planning and prep side, the documentation. And that's kind of where we are. It's very exciting though to see hard work kind of come to culmination. And things will break, which is hard for me because like I coded it and like it's out there and people are gonna break it and then I gotta fix it. But like it's still cool anyway.
Thank you so much. You know, we're just reaching the end of our time here. So we've got 5 people left up on the stage. So I want you guys to open your mics, and I'm going to say the word A, and then you guys follow with, well, you know what. So that's how we're going to do it this week. So open your mics up. A.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha. I was hoping we were going to spell it out, you guys, like cheerleaders. Come on, let's try that. Okay, we'll try one more time. A.
Oh.
L O H A. Are we supposed to go one by one? This is too confusing.
You know what? We're just supposed to feel the love, and that's it, man. I love you guys. By the way, technical note, next week we will not be having Web3 Writers because Riona and I are both going to be camping separately. I might have. But hopefully you'll be camping too. Riona and I take concurrent vacations in different locations. It's amazing.
Touch grass, man.
Web3 Writers is brought to you by Vagabond Magazine and published on Apple Podcasts through the Substack app. You can find all the episodes on Apple Podcasts or at vagabond, vagobond.substack.com. Our theme music is composed by the amazingly talented Paolo Argento and brought to us courtesy of Pixabay. You can find the link in the show notes.